Imagine this: you wake up tomorrow and realize that every second, every breath, every blink of your eye is a step closer to the end of your journey. No one knows when that journey will end. But here's the catch: how many of us actually live as if we know this truth? We talk about life being short. We say it like it's a cliche, but do we really believe it? And if we do, why do we waste so much of it? I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now and think about this. If someone handed you a clock, one that counted down every second you had left to live, how would you spend today? Would you still scroll through your phone aimlessly? Would you still argue over things that don't matter? Or would you pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what am I doing with my life? You see, life is short not just because it ends, but because we fool ourselves into thinking we have more time than we really do. We spend our days waiting for the right moment, for the perfect opportunity, for some magical sign that tells us, now is the time to start living. But here's the truth: there's no perfect moment. There's only now. And if you're not using this moment wisely, you're letting life slip through your fingers. Let me ask you something: how much of your life do you spend doing things that truly matter? I don't mean work or chores or even the things you think you're supposed to do. I mean the things that light you up inside, the things that make you feel alive. When was the last time you sat down and asked yourself, what do I really want? What will I regret not doing when my time is up? The philosopher Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it," and he's right. We waste time worrying about things we can't control. We waste time chasing other people's dreams, living by other people's standards, and forgetting that this life is ours, not anyone else's. Ours.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Here's a question for you. If you could see your entire life laid out in front of you, like a movie, what would you want it to look like? Would you want it to be filled with moments of joy, love, and adventure? Or would you be okay with it being a series of routines, regrets, and missed opportunities? Because here's the thing: every choice you make today is shaping that movie. Every decision, no matter how small, is writing the story of your life. Think about this: when was the last time you truly appreciated a moment? Not with your phone, not with a camera, but just with your eyes, your heart, your soul. When was the last time you stopped to watch the sunset, to feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, to listen to the sound of the wind in the trees? When was the last time you truly lived in the moment instead of rushing through it? Life is short, and yet we act like we have all the time in the world. We put off saying, "I love you" to the people who matter. We put off chasing our dreams because we're scared of failing. We put off living because we're waiting for some future version of ourselves to suddenly have it all figured out. But that version of you doesn't exist. The only you that exists is the one sitting here right now listening to this. So let me ask you, what are you waiting for? I'm not saying you need to drop everything and run off to climb a mountain or sail around the world. But I am saying you need to wake up, because life is happening right now, whether you're paying attention to it or not. And if you're not careful, you're going to wake up one day and realize that you've spent your life waiting instead of living. Let's think about the choices we make every day. How often do we say yes to things that don't matter, just because we're afraid of saying no? How often do we let other people's expectations dictate how we live? And how often do we choose comfort over growth, safety over adventure, routine over risk? These choices may seem small in the moment, but over time they add up. They become our life. Here's a challenge for you: the next time you're faced with a choice, ask yourself this simple question: will this matter when I'm on my deathbed? If the answer is no, don't waste your time on it. Life is too short to spend on things that don't matter. But here's the paradox: life is also long. Long enough to make mistakes, to fall and get back up, to fail and try again. Long enough to change, to grow, to become the person you've always wanted to be. So don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to fail, because failure isn't the end, it's just a step on the journey. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who worked his whole life, saving every penny, dreaming of the day he could retire and finally start living. But when that day came, his health was gone, his energy was gone, and all he had left were regrets. He spent his life chasing a future that never came. And he never realized that the only time we ever truly have is now. So here's my advice to you: stop waiting. Stop waiting for the right time, the right circumstances, the right version of yourself. Stop waiting for permission to live the life you want, because no one is going to give it to you. You have to take it. Ask yourself, if you only had a year left to live, what would you do differently? Who would you spend your time with? What would you stop doing? What would you start doing? And then this is the hard part: go and do those things. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't let your fears, your doubts, or your excuses hold you back. Because life is short, and you only get one shot at it. Here's the truth: we don't know how much time we have. And that's what makes life so precious. Every moment is a gift, a chance to create something beautiful, to connect with the people we love, to make a difference in the world. But it's up to us to use that gift wisely. So let me leave you with this question: if your life were to end tomorrow, would you be proud of the way you live today? If the answer is no, then it's time to make a change. Because life is short, but it's also full of possibilities. And it's never too late to start living the life you were meant to live. What does it mean to live a fulfilling life? Have you ever truly asked yourself that question? Not in passing, not as some vague motivational idea, but as a serious inquiry into the core of your existence. What is fulfillment? Is it happiness? Is it success? Is it love? Or is it something deeper, something that lies beneath all those fleeting emotions and achievements? Let's start with the obvious: we all want to feel like our lives matter. We want to know that we've made a difference, that our existence isn't just a random accident. But here's the paradox: the more we chase external validation, money, fame, recognition, the further we drift from true fulfillment. Why? Because fulfillment isn't something you can find out there. It's something you cultivate in here, inside yourself. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly fulfilled? Not just happy, not just content, but deeply, profoundly at peace with your life. What were you doing? Who were you with? And why did that moment feel so meaningful? The answers to these questions hold the key to understanding what fulfillment means for you. You see, fulfillment is deeply personal. It's not about living up to someone else's definition of success. It's about aligning your life with your own values, your own passions, your own sense of purpose. But here's the problem: most of us don't take the time to figure out what those things are. We're too busy chasing what society tells us we should want. A bigger house, a nicer car, a more impressive job title. And we wonder why we feel empty, even when we have everything we thought we wanted. Let me ask you something: if you stripped away all the noise, all the distractions, all the expectations, what would you be left with? Who would you be if no one was watching? What would you do if no one would ever judge you for it? These are hard questions, but they're the ones that lead to clarity. Because fulfillment begins when you stop asking, what do they want from me? And start asking, what do I want for myself? Here's the thing about purpose: it's not something you find, it's something you create. And it starts with a simple truth: life is not about what you get, it's about what you give. The most fulfilling moments in life aren't the ones where we achieve something for ourselves. They're the ones where we contribute to something bigger than ourselves, where we make someone else's life a little brighter, a little easier, a a little more meaningful. Think about this. When was the last time you did something purely out of love? Not because you had to, not because you wanted something in return, but simply because it felt right. Maybe it was helping a friend through a tough time. Maybe it was volunteering for a cause you believe in. Maybe it was as simple as smiling at a stranger who looked like they needed it. Whatever it was, I bet it left you with a sense of peace that no amount of money or success could ever buy. Why is that? Why does giving feel so much better than getting? It's because we're wired for connection. We're not meant to live in isolation, chasing our own selfish desires. We're meant to be part of something greater. And when we embrace that, when we shift our focus from me to we unlock a level of fulfillment that no material possession can ever match. But let's be real, living a life of purpose isn't easy. It requires courage, it requires sacrifice, and it requires us to face some uncomfortable truths about ourselves. Like the fact that most of us spend more time thinking about what we don't have than appreciating what we do. Or the fact that we're so afraid of failure that we never take the risks necessary to discover our true potential. So let me ask you this, what are you afraid of? What's holding you back from living the life you know you're capable of? Is it fear of judgment? Fear of rejection? Fear of falling short? Whatever it is, I want you to imagine that fear is a wall standing between you and your purpose. And now I want you to ask yourself, is that wall really as strong as I think it is? Or am I the one giving it power? Here's a secret about fear: it only has as much power as you give it. And the best way to overcome it is to take action. Even the smallest step forward can start to break down that wall. Because every time you choose courage over fear, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than you think. And that's how you build momentum. That's how you create a life of purpose, one small, brave step at a time. But purpose isn't just about big, life-changing moments. It's also about the little things. The way you treat the people around you, the way you show up for your family, your friends, your community, the way you choose kindness even when it's inconvenient. Because at the end of the day, purpose isn't about what you do, it's about how you do it. It's about the energy you bring to every moment, the love you pour into even the simplest tasks. So let me leave you with a challenge for the next 24 hours. Live as if your life depended on it. Because in a way, it does. Every moment you spend disconnected, distracted, or disengaged is a moment you'll never get back. But every moment you spend fully present, fully alive, fully aligned with your purpose, that's a moment that adds to the richness of your life. Ask yourself, if you could only do one thing with the rest of your life, what would it be? What's the one thing that lights a fire in your soul, that makes you feel like you're exactly where you're meant to be? And then ask yourself, what's stopping me from doing it? Chances are, the answer will be fear. But here's the truth: fear is temporary. Regret is forever. So don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect version of yourself, because none of those things exist. All you have is this moment, this life, this chance to make it count. And if you don't take it, no one else will. When all is said and done, what will remain of us? Have you ever thought about that? What will people say about you when you're gone? Will it matter how much money you made, how many followers you had, or how many awards you won? Or will it be something deeper, something less tangible, but infinitely more meaningful? You see, life is short, but legacy is long. And this is the paradox we all face while our time here is fleeting. The impact we leave behind can ripple far beyond our years. So the question is not just, how should I live? But also, what will I leave behind? Let's start with this: legacy is not about fame or recognition. It's not about building monuments to yourself or making sure your name is remembered for centuries. Legacy is about the lives you touch, the love you give, and the values you pass on. It's about the small, everyday moments that add up to a lifetime of meaning. Think about it when you're gone. What will people remember about you? They won't remember the car you drove or the house you lived in. They won't even remember most of the things you said. What they will remember is how you made them feel. Did you make them feel loved, understood, inspired? Did you lift them up when they were down? Did you help them believe in themselves when they couldn't see their own worth? These are the things that truly matter. Here's a question for you. If you could write your own eulogy, what would you want it to say? Not what you think it should say, but what you truly want it to say. What kind of person do you want to be remembered as? What kind of life do you want to leave behind? And most importantly, are you living in a way that aligns with that vision? The truth is, we often get so caught up in the busyness of life that we forget to ask ourselves these questions. We spend our days focused on the next task, the next goal, the next milestone. But when we look back on our lives, it's not the tasks or the goals that will stand out. It's the connections we made, the kindness we showed, the love we shared. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who worked tirelessly his entire life, building a successful business, amassing wealth, and achieving everything he thought he wanted. But on his deathbed, he realized something. He had spent so much time chasing success that he had neglected the people who mattered most. His family, his friends, his own sense of joy and purpose, all of it had been sacrificed in the name of ambition. And in the end, he was left with a profound sense of regret. Now think about your own life. Are you living in a way that you'll be proud of when your time comes? Or are you caught in the same trap, sacrificing what truly matters for things that, in the grand scheme of things, don't matter at all? Here's the thing about legacy. It's not something you build in one grand gesture. It's something you build moment by moment, choice by choice, day by day. It's the way you show up for the people around you. It's the way you choose kindness over anger, generosity over greed, love over fear. It's the way you live your values, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching. So let me ask you, what kind of legacy are you building right now? If you keep living the way you're living, what will you leave behind? And if the answer doesn't sit well with you, what are you going to do about it? Because here's the truth, it's never too late to change. It's never too late to start living the life you want to be remembered for. But legacy isn't just about what we leave behind for others. It's also about the way we live for ourselves. Because when you think about it, the only real measure of a life well lived is whether you can look back on it and say, I gave it my all. I loved deeply. I lived fully. I made the most of the time I was given. Let me ask you something. If you could talk to your younger self, what advice would you give them? Would you tell them to stress less and laugh more? To take more risks and worry less about what other people think? To spend more time with the people they love and less time chasing things that don't matter? And now, flip the question. If your future self could talk to you right now, what would they say? What would they thank you for? What would they urge you to change? What would they tell you to stop waiting for? Here's the thing, we all know that life is short, but knowing it isn't enough. We have to live it. We have to let that knowledge shape the way we spend our time, the way we treat the people around us, the way we show up for our own lives. So here's my challenge to you: live as if your legacy depends on every decision you make. Because it does. Every act of kindness, every moment of courage, every time you choose love over fear, you're building your legacy. And it's not just about the big moments, it's about the little ones. The way you smile at a stranger, the way you listen to a friend, the way you choose to be present, even when it's easier to be distracted. At the end of the day, life is short, but it's also immensely beautiful. And the beauty lies not in how long we live, but in how deeply we live. In how we choose to spend the time we've been given. In how we show up for ourselves, for others, and for the world. So let me leave you with one final question. If today were your last day, what would you do differently? And if the answer is anything other than, nothing, I'm living exactly the way I want to, then it's time to make a change. Because life is too short to waste on anything less than what truly matters. Your legacy is being written every day. Make sure it's a story worth telling.